today. All right, so 10U development options. We're going to go over a brief overview of everything available to you. We'll touch on some details of each one, and hopefully, when you guys leave this meeting, you feel more comfortable understanding your options, more confident in what you can do and what's available to your daughter, and hopefully you have some questions or something that got you stimulated about next season. So the options are very simple on a basic scale here. You have travel and house. And then on the travel side, there's really two options, and then this hybrid option. There's girls travel, there's co-ed travel, and then there's what we call dual rostering. And we'll get into all three of those now. This is primarily a travel meeting and a travel conversation. I'm going to touch on the differences between travel and house quickly, and then we'll move on and we'll focus mainly on your options throughout the travel path. So travel hockey versus house hockey, very simple. Travel hockey is a much larger commitment than house hockey. When you're putting them side by side, travel hockey is going to have a higher level of competition compared to house hockey. Travel hockey, you're going to practice twice a week. I put an asterisk there because if you're in the girls program, there's a little bit more to it than just the two practices each week. In travel hockey side, you're looking at 45 to 55 games roughly. And due to all that ice time, it's fair to say that your development rate is going to be much higher on the travel side. On the house hockey side, it's a low commitment. There's one practice a week. I think you do one game a week, with the exception of like a playoff weekend, and your total is going to reach about 20 games. There is no girls only option in house hockey. There's only a co-ed house league that's available to everyone. You get randomly assigned to a team, and you kind of you go about your business. So, like I said, kind of the biggest difference is the commitment level, the competition level, and the time on ice. I can be very candid with you in saying that if you kind of start in the house model, it's harder to break into the travel model. Not impossible, but just when you're 9 years old, when you're 8 years old, and 10 years old, that sort of thing. The puck touches, the time on ice. It really matters a ton, and it makes a big difference. And so, missing out on those formative years at 8, 9, and 10 years old and doing, a third of the time on ice and kind of a maybe a less structured practice or with a coach that's not as experienced, just the time on ice alone is going to impact the development. So the travel is where we're going to focus tonight. But like I said, those are kind of your two options. The travel hockey, like I said, there's girls travel, there's co-ed travel, and there's dual rostering. This is an overview of all three and kind of how they compare. This will be a great slide for you to refer back to later. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm going to go to one first. So we're going to start with our girls travel team and get you solely focused on that. So we have a all girls 10U team. And I call it the best of both worlds, and this is why I do so. The girls 10U team, the structure is as follows. You play a leg of your schedule is a co-ed leg, and you do a portion of your schedule is an all girls portion. And so we do at the 10U co-ed, at the 10U girls team, we participate in two leagues. We do the CBHL co-ed league, and what level we place ourselves at co-ed depends on kind of the team that we're building around. But we do enter at some level of co-ed, and from that level we get 18 games guaranteed, plus playoffs, 18 to 20 games. It depends. It kind of varies year to year a little bit. So 18 to 20 games, being an all girls team playing against dominantly boys teams. They may have a girl or two on their team, but for the most part, we're playing against boys team. We do this for for a couple reasons. Number one, it guarantees a certain level of competition. With 10U girls locally, um, we are by far the largest club in terms of participants across the board, as well as just girls. So while we have the ability to field a pure 10U girls team and kind of guarantee a certain level of competitiveness, most of the other clubs in the area cannot do that. They don't have the number of girls, that sort of thing. So it's hard to find consistent competition in a close geographic area for our girls to play against in terms of just girls. So that's number one why we do co-ed, why we do a co-ed league. The second reason is boys tend to be a little bit more on the aggressive side. They tend to be a little bit wilder, a little bit crazier. And I think it's really good for girls to have to compete against that. I think the natural aggressiveness of the boys forces the girls to become more aggressive. And that's exactly what we want for these 10U girls. I'm not a fan of isolating them away from the boys. But kind of the flip side to that, the reason we do an all girls team is, uh, having done this, having coached multiple levels, and specifically coaching the 14U level and seeing a lot of girls coming over from a pure co-ed model. What you get a lot of times with them is you get girls that are aggressive and they're fast, but they lack a lot of the puck skills. And a lot of girls, there are exceptions, but a lot of girls tend to defer to boys when they're on a team full of boys. And so, they'll let the boys get to, they'll give the pucks off to the boys, let the boys score the goals, let the boys skate the pucks more. And over the timeline, over a longer development and a longer timeline, continuously deferring to the boys, um, ultimately allows them to develop more puck skills, and it takes away puck touches from our girls. So this 10U girls team has been in the works now, has been happening for 3 seasons. And we found that this is a great mix of, we get to get pushed around by the boys, we get to go beat up on the boys, but it's the girls that are doing all the goal scoring. It's the girls that are doing all the puck touches. I can tell you, I think I saw that our 10U girls team this year has scored like 350 goals or something crazy like that. And it's been all from girls, right? So you think about all those puck touches, all those catching and shooting, and you know that on every one, the wins are coming because the girls are making it happen. The goals are coming because the girls are making it happen. The puck battles are being won by girls. And so that's really what the purpose of this 10U team is to empower our girls, and give them the best vehicle to develop into the strongest players later on down the road. Um, that said, we do like to measure ourselves against girls teams as well. So there is another league called the AGHF, that's an all girls league, and that spans kind of across the Mid Atlantic. So we play teams kind of as far north as New York and Connecticut, um, and all the way down, Pennsylvania, just the whole Atlantic coast. So we'll play 16 games plus playoffs in that. 8 of those games are made up in kind of 2 showcase weekends at a neutral site. So while it seems like we're playing girls from all over, the travel is pretty limited uh, for the competitive diversity that we see out of that. I put 3 to 4 tournaments here. It's actually more like 3 to 5. It really can vary. And we'll do a mix of co-ed tournaments or girls tournaments. Again, we select this stuff kind of after we have a roster together and we know what we're looking at and what we're dealing with. and we can kind of pick out the best tournaments that are a good fit from a competitive standpoint. Um, we do 2 practices on ice each week. We also this past season started doing skill sessions each week. So what that entails is the girls are upstairs in the synthetic training facility upstairs doing all stick skill stuff for an hour a week prior to one of their practices. So it's a way for us to really develop stick skills for the girls at an accelerated rate. It's an extra hour of touching pucks each week. It's an extra hour of shooting pucks each week. And for the girls, we found that this is paying off. It's really doing what it's intended to do. So for us, it's kind of 3 hours of practice each week. And that's why I put the asterisk on the last slide around the practice time. So how does that compare to the 10U coed side? 10U coed is similar. They're going to play CBHL coed just like the girls will. Depending, the level depends on what you make if you try out for both. So you'll get the same amount of games on the coed side in the CBHL, whether you're playing on the 10U girls team or the 10 or a 10U coed team. They play in the brother league of the AGHF, which is the AHF. So that's another co-ed league where they're getting an additional 16 games. Again, so that's a major difference for us. We're doing 16 girls games. They're doing additional 16 co-ed games. They both do, tournaments are kind of selected on a team by team basis in the co-ed side. But you'll most likely get 3 to 5 tournaments similar to us. The boys, the co-ed side practices twice a week. We practice twice a week online. The only difference on the practice side is we do an additional skill session upstairs in the synthetic ice facility each week. The major difference beyond that is kind of environment. On the 10U girls side, we're developing in an all girls environment. And you're developing in a dominantly boys setting, meaning you're practicing in a dominantly boys setting if you're on a co-ed team. The biggest difference for us in that, like I said, is throughout the course of the season, the girls on our team are doing all the heavy lifting. They're doing all the puck touches. And I keep talking about puck touches and development because at 10U, that's what it's really all about. So there was a talk. I'll cover this right now. There was mention on the team chat or on Team Snap a couple weeks ago about a travel light option that no longer exists at MYHA. I repeat, there is no travel light avenue anymore. So it's very binary. You either have a house path or a travel path at MYHA. Dual rostering. What is dual rostering? It's exactly what it sounds like. Dual rostering is when a girl joins both a co-ed team and a girls team. So the player is actually rostered on 2 different teams, and they have an obligation to show up to as much as they can on each of those teams. Why do players dual roster? The short answer is if you are a very strong player, and so let's say that we are playing at a lower A CBHL level. If you have a player that is strong enough to play on Keegan's AA team, well, then you should definitely do that. And so for a player like that, that's where they have a dual. That's the player that maybe would want a dual roster. They're playing at the competitive level necessary for them on the boys' side, but then they kind of want to stay involved in the girls' environment. They want the all girls atmosphere, kind of as an escape from all those boys, and to be able to participate with the girls when they can. And so that is kind of the candidate for a dual roster spot. I will tell you that dual rostering doesn't work super well. We have 2 girls that dual roster on our 10U girls team this year. They're both on Keegan's AA blue team. and both of them last year were only on our co-ed girls team. So if you're concerned about the development on the girls' side, you don't have to be. The past 2 seasons that we've done this, we've advanced girls directly from our girls co-ed, our girls 10U team up to Keegan's team and on to AAA boys hockey after that. So the development is there. That part is proven. There's no concern there. Um, but the one thing that is important to note that because our girls team plays in a CBHL co-ed division, if you are rostered on another co-ed team with Montgomery, you are completely ineligible to participate in the CBHL league games, which means if I want a dual roster on a higher level co-ed team and the girls 10U team, you will be ineligible for those 20 CBHL uh, co-ed games or CBHL games with the girls, because the rules in CBHL state you can only be rostered on one team participating in a co-ed division. So everything else you're eligible for. You're eligible for the AGHF leg of our roster of our season. You're eligible for the non-league games. You're eligible for all the tournament games. Um, so that's like the important distinction. Um, why would anybody dual roster? We kind of went over that. What's the pros and cons of dual rostering? The pros are simple. You know, you get the appropriate competition on the co-ed side, you get the all girls environment on the girls side, and you get a lot of additional ice time. The drawbacks is fatigue. The schedule can be very overwhelming. You got 4 practices a week, not 2. You got, you know, maybe 6 games on a weekend instead of 2 or 3. And you're running all over the DMV or the Mid Atlantic, depending on where the games are. So the time on the road, time on the rink, or the time at the rink, the scheduling can be very taxing. These are long seasons as is. Like I said, 55 games. You start in the middle, in the kind of late August, and you're going up until the beginning of March. So it's a lot to be on one team. Playing on 2 teams is really a lot. On top of that, there's the cost factor. At MYHA, if you're rostered on a girls team and a co-ed team, you pay the full price of the first team, and then you get a 50% discount on the second roster spot. So it's 1.5 times as expensive. And talking with the players and the families that have done this before, um, you get kids that are kind of like hopping back between 2 teams, and they're not at everything for either team. So sometimes you can feel like, well, I'm kind of on the outside looking in on both teams. So from a social standpoint, it can be challenging at times for a kid. For the parents, it can be very challenging from a scheduling standpoint. But like I said, there are certain kids that it works out great for. Uh, so it is an option. We do, in terms of how many people we have dual rostering, we typically allow 2. Any more than that, it's just too many people on the roster, period. So, uh, in summary, just to go back a little bit, there's kind of 3 options for you at the travel side of MYHA. There's girls travel team, the girls travel 10U team. There's a co-ed travel team, and then there's the dual rostering, which is being rostered on one of each. For the girls travel, again, we do a co-ed division. The big key points: we do a co-ed league, we do an all girls league. We practice twice a week, and we do an hour skills session upstairs on top of that. In like to kind of help you guys through the fog here, what matters for 10U hockey player? Skill development, such as building confidence, and for the girls especially, learning to be extremely aggressive on the ice. nothing else matters. It really doesn't. The level that you're playing at, whether you're on a B team or a double A team or somewhere in between, it, I can tell you from doing this, it makes no difference. What matters is how much, like, the confidence they're building, how many opportunities they're getting to carry the puck, to make plays, to score goals. Are they getting chances to play on power plays, on penalty kills, on all the different scenarios? Do they feel like they're a huge contributing factor on their team? If these four criteria are met, like I said, B level, A level, double A, it makes no difference. The kids will do, the kids that are getting these four things, and with skill development, a lot of that comes down to coaching. Um, but if they're getting those four things, they're going to develop. They're going to be in a place to play at the highest level they want to later on. That part I'm confident about. Like I said, we've been doing this model for the girls 10U team for 3 seasons now. We're finishing up the third. We put kids. The first year we did this did the girls team. We played CBHL B. We sent 2 girls from our B team to Keegan's double A team. So they leapfrogged kids that were on lower A, kids that were on upper A, and took the spot on the top team on Montgomery co-ed side. Last year, the same thing. We had 2 girls. We played lower A last season. We had 2 girls that leapfrogged everybody, went on to Keegan's team again. And we probably had a couple more that belong there that chose to just do the girls team again. So, like I said, my point with telling you this is, you don't like at this age, it's about the ice time, it's about the coaching, it's about the puck touches, and the skill development. And if you guys get that stuff and you learn to be aggressive and learn to love the sport, the kids will have the opportunity to play at higher levels later on. So, this is recorded. I will make the slides available after this presentation so that everybody can kind of have it at their fingertips. And if anybody has any questions, I will open it up to that now. What'd I miss? How confusing was it?
Hey, Mike. That was
Hello.
great. Thank you. I did have one question. You mentioned the girl portion of the games. That's mostly mid-Atlantic teams. For the co-ed portion, what amount of travel is that? Like what states, and is that mostly local or?
Yeah. So the co-ed portion is in the CBHL, which is the Chesapeake Bay Hockey League. So it's teams from the DMV. You know,
Oh,
you're gonna
okay.
go like you're gonna go
Okay.
as far north as Baltimore. You're gonna end up
Okay.
in Loudon or Ashburn, not Loudon anymore. You're gonna end up in Ashburn maybe or Prince William. That's like kind of your range. Southern Maryland occasionally, but that's it.
Okay. Oh,
So
great. Thanks. Okay.
and for the Mid Atlantic side, like I said, are 16 games for the girls portion of the schedule. Out of those 16 games, 8 of them are handled in 2 weekends. You'll go to a neutral site in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. You'll play 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. So half of those games get cleaned up in a week and 2 weekends. And then of the other 8 games, 4 of those will be at home and 4 of them will be away. So you're really traveling maybe at most 4 weekends to cover those games. Usually you can get them done in 3 weekends. So it's not a ton of travel on that side either.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? What else we got?
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking the time to walk us through all this. Very helpful. Um, can you tell us how tryouts work? And because I think we saw the schedule, it's an hour, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I guess, and combined with 12U. But how does that evaluation work, and what should we know ahead of time?
Yeah, fantastic question, and I'll add on to that in a second. But for the tryouts themselves, they're really straightforward. Um, the kids come onto the ice. They check in. They get a jersey. come onto the ice, we run them through some drills and some gameplay, and we have a chance to see them all compete against each other, with each other, evaluate their skills, kind of evaluate their kind of the fire to go get the puck, which is so important. I can't overstate how important that is. Um, and from there, usually we on the 10U side, it's usually pretty easy to figure out the team. So we usually can get it done in 2 tryouts. Occasionally we'll need the third tryout. So there's a good chance we won't need all of those ice slots, but we have them just in case. So yeah, like I think I can tell you from last year, I want to say got it done in 2 tryouts. I will add on to that. Comes to if you are a person that is trying out for co-ed and for girls, which I know a number of you that signed up for tryouts are. I totally understand that. Some people want to hedge their bets. There's only one 10U girls team. There are multiple co-ed teams. We do not, the rink has never been great. I won't put it on the rink. The scheduling never coordinates perfectly, meaning there will be there. I haven't looked at the co-ed schedule, but depending on what group you get placed in for 10U, you might have some conflicts where you got a co-ed tryout on rink 2 and a girls tryout on rink 3. The best way to handle that is to reach out to me ahead of time. Let me know about it. We'll handle it on a case-by-case basis. And usually it's a great opportunity for me to get a better understanding of which one do you really want to do, because when you go to me about it, you go to Rob about it, that's the first question you're going to get back at you is which one does the kid really want to be on? And, because people come up every year and ask, well, which tryout do I go to when? And I know Rob's answer is always the same. Which team do you want to be on more? Go to that tryout. And, for me, I can usually give you a little bit more insight, like, hey, here's, we go to this one, I'll see her tomorrow or whatever it may be. So we can figure that out, but just reach out and email me, text me, and we can work around those conflicts when they do come up.
Great, thanks. And I think we had chatted briefly. You had recommended the clinics in advance, and I guess was just confused by the different clinic options between, I guess, what you're running and what Keegan's running. Is there any option still open for that at this point?
So the short answer is no. the part, if there's a downside to doing tryouts this early on in the spring, it's that teams, we still on the girls side and on the co-ed side, we still have teams preparing for districts, going to nationals. So there is not a lot of ice available. So Rob and I run the pre-tryout session for 10U and 12U as we team up and do it together, because to be perfectly honest, there's not enough ice for each of us to do our own. So we only offer for 10U, 12U leading up to tryouts, one pre-tryout clinic. Last year we had 2 groups because there was more ice available. This year we only have one due to ice constraints, and that clinic is completely full with an extensive wait list at the moment. Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, so I have a question regarding the one team. So there's one team for the 10U girls. So there are more girls than just one team. So given that the tryouts might coincide, I guess, will we get a heads up or not if our girl makes it or not in order to continue with the tryouts for the co-ed in order for them to get into a co-ed team, or what, how do you work with that?
Yeah. We're not out to like every kid, every person that's on this Zoom call, and the ones that aren't too, to find a home, and the right home for them. Girls don't grow on trees in hockey. We want to develop every single kid, and we will do our absolute best to make sure that every kid finds home. Rob and I do talk throughout the tryout process. He'll tell me, hey, where do you have this girl? This is where she sits for me. And we'll coordinate, and he'll let me know, hey, she's going to get cut on the co-ed side, or it'll go, it can go both ways. So we have those conversations. We will let you know, and help guide you, like I said, on a case-by-case basis in that moment. You're not going to just be blindsided and go, oh crap, like I wanted the girls team first, so I never showed up to a co-ed tryout, and now I'm cut, and now I have nowhere to go. We won't let that happen. And we will have 2 12U teams this year as well. And I say that because depending on numbers, we can shuffle things a little bit to make more room for girls as well. So we will work through it to make sure that as many people as possible have a home, and we will be very proactive in helping you guys find a home if it's not where your first choice is. How'd I do? Good. Any other questions? I'll just give you a quick heads up. I got 2.5 minutes because I do the cheap version of Zoom that's like the 40-minute cap. So rapid fire if anybody has any more.
Like, I think there's a question in chat about, is there a possibility of 2 10U girls travel teams or a 10U jamboree team for girls that don't make travel?
Oh, so yeah, that's a great question. We have on the girls' side, we have 7 teams to work with. There might be an 8th team floating around that we could get our hands on if we needed to. We guarantee 1 10U, 1 12U, 1 14, 16, and 19, 5 teams. We take the other 2 teams and we use them where the demand is greatest. And we always like to shade towards the younger groups because that's the most important part in a lot of ways. So there is a possibility to do 10U teams, 2 10U teams if the demand is there. I also have been in discussion with Rob and our scheduler about having a 10U. Everyone enjoyed, I think, that when we got together in October and skated Saturday morning, just the girls. So we're working on next year making that a regular thing that would be open to 10U and 12U girls, so that again everybody's getting consistent development regardless of where they end up in the tryout. The real goal here, like I said, is we never know which kids are going to become the brightest stars, so we want to keep them all moving together and developing at a high rate, and then we would just like to see how they turn out. And I got less than a minute, so last question. Nothing. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I will share the slides. This is recorded. If you have a question I didn't get to, email me or text me or call me and we'll make it happen. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
This is Flo.